G'day fellas, welcome to a casted game of Age of Empires 4. Spawning in the west of the map, it's ACCM, playing the English. His opponent, spawning in the south of the map, it is TheViper. And he is also playing the English. The map that we are on here is Mongolian Heights. Mongolian Heights, famous for its huge amounts of sheep. There are absolutely so many sheep on this map. Let's see if we can spot out a couple of them. I'll do my best. There's one. That's all we've got. We've got 2 sheep. There are often so many bloody sheep on this map. Whenever I play it, they're normally up in the corners. Somewhere there's a couple more up over there. Normally you just run into it. There's like 7 or 8 of them all huddled together. Oh, there we go. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all together up in the corner. So we're going to be paying attention to the Viper. We're going to be watching him as he plays out the English in Age of Empires 4. I'm incredibly excited for it. Primarily because ACCM's had plenty of time to be playing this. I haven't actually seen him play a lot of the English, whereas Viper, he hasn't had a lot of time. Like, I saw ACCM on the very first day of the creator preview, but Viper, I've only seen him recently in the last couple of days. He's been more and more active, and the English is something that he's been turning to, so I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how it is he plays this one out. We'll take a look over at ACCM's base, see how he's coming along 3 villages on gold. Going to be dropping down that lumber camp as well. We'll take a look back over at Viper's base, and we'll see exactly how he's doing. Only 2 villages on gold, so going a little bit slower, but a little bit more steady, it seems, for this game. So the scouting now beginning for ACCM. We see Vipers scouting on the minimap. Not doing too much. Compare that over to ACCM, and pretty much the same thing, really. Both of them are very interested in Viper's side. You can see ACCM is definitely playing a little bit more on the edge. Now, one of the things I've theorized in this matchup is that potentially, hypothetically, if you're playing an English mirror, you could technically open the Abbey of Kings. But it's a weird thing. Okay, so hear me out. So, when you're playing the English, it's very typical that when you open, you're going to be opening with the standard landmark. That's the council hall. And the reason why is because even if you don't want to make longbows right away, you might want to make them later in the game. So you kind of need it. By the way, both of the scores are very even, 336 each right now, so even Stevens. But what you can do is by going Abbey of the Kings, if you've got good micro, you can pull those injured units back and keep them alive for longer. So my theory is that if you open up cavalry, then potentially you could actually use the landmark in the early game, but the landmark has got a lot of caveats. As an example, you need to be nearby the landmark, you need to be out of combat, and that needs to be a specific amount of time. I don't know exactly what the timer is. I don't know whether that is a 5-second timer, a 10-second timer, it could even be a 15-second timer, but there are some other healing abilities, like the French have got access to a healing ability for their Royal Knights, and that's a 30-second timer. So you really have to consider these things. Viper going to have enough resources to go up now. Let's take a look and see what he goes with. It is going to be the council hall that we do spot out. We'll take a look in ACCM's base. Oh, gosh. And we'll see what we've got coming up for him. He hasn't actually got his age up yet. A little bit of miss macro here. We did mention earlier that he had 3 villages on gold, but you can actually see Viper going to be picking up all of those sheep right now. Where is ACCM's scout? It sounds like he's picking up sheep as well. He is indeed. And going to be dropping down that council hall as well. So many villages getting dropped down with this 5 villages over here. Compare that to Vipers going up with 5 villages as well. Very curious that they're using so many villages. I guess they're both going with a relatively late age up, so both respecting that, appreciating each other. Typically, you do see 3, 4 villages, but the fact that there's 5 villages on here really, to me, indicates a little bit of a sense of urgency. But nonetheless, we'll continue watching, see what we see. We'll go into the line of sight of Viper and see how he comes back with the Mongolian hype train right there. Take a look at that. Just when you thought there wasn't enough sheep in the game, 15 sheep Viper finds. That is impressive. I think we're going to have to start calling him the Shepherd. Is that what we call him now? Instead of the Viper, he's the Shepherd. What's the relationship between sheep and vipers or snakes? I suspect sheep, like most animals, would just be scared of snakes, right? Oh, but then you get those... Sheeps are pretty stupid, right? Like, they just follow each other. I guess that's kind of like... It's one of those innate things. Like, everyone's scared of snakes. Like, there's a reason, you know, your eyes are so good at spotting out movement on the ground. It's because of snakes. We have evolved to identify snakes on the ground. And so, you know what? Maybe sheep are the same thing. And look at Viper picking up these. He doesn't actually realize there's a couple more up here. He is going to be heading up this way. So just when you thought 15 sheep wasn't enough, Viper going and collecting. He's got another 6 here. There's a 7th one down here that's hiding away. We'll take a look at what he's going to be opening with. A couple of longbows out already, going to be firing away at that scout, pushing it back. Now keep in mind, this game is live right now as we speak. I don't actually have any insight as to how good this game could be. I don't have any insight as to how long this game could be. We could be in for a 6-hour game right now. We could be in for a 6-minute game now. Keep in mind, it is 5 minutes 20, so it doesn't really look like it's going to be finishing that early. ACCM now going to be going up, dropping down a couple of houses now as well. We'll take a look at the upgrades and see what we've got. So we do have the hunting upgrade in for ACCM. We don't have the mining upgrade right now. But we'll take a look and spot what other upgrades we've potentially got as well. Do we have that mining upgrade? It doesn't look like we've got that mining upgrade. And we've got just the wood chopping, the tree chopping, I think is probably the best way to put it. Also going out to a second hunt as well. This is quite early in the game right now. So ACCM really heading out there early and interestingly putting up this outpost. So going to be behind when it comes to resources in the early game. But keep in mind, he's got the defender's advantage. He's going to be able to reinforce a lot more easily than his opponent. We'll take a look at Viper, see where he is. He is actually coming down around the south now. Going to be looking, heading into a forest, which is going to be obscuring his line of sight. Now, let's have a look at, does ACCM have line of sight of this? He does actually spot him out with the scout down here. Going to be able to clean him up. We'll take a look. He's probably going to be losing all 3 of these because he does have the scout here, which is going to be able to secure vision. Is he going to continue following? It's probably the play to do. He does continue following, so Viper's got to be careful not to lose, or ACCM rather is going to be careful not to lose that scout. But doing a pretty decent job right there of cleaning up that little raid, and already ACCM beginning to transition over to farms. This is something that we notice a lot of Age of Empires 2 players doing. They begin their transition to farms very early, despite having one hunt very close to the base, a full batch of berries, already the second farm getting placed down. Now, obviously that could be to do with the fact that he is playing English. English have got cheaper farms than any other civilization. If we take a look at their farms, you can see that you can build a farm for 37 wood. So it actually doesn't hurt you that much to be dropping those down. And in addition to that, you're also going to be getting that buff. You see that influence buff. So it's going to be a 20% food gathering buff that you receive in the second age. So pretty darn decent when you consider all things. All right, we'll take a look back down at Viper, see how he's doing. Viper macroing, looking like he's thinking about the third age a little bit. And look at all the sheep he has got right here. He is truly the shepherd to save us right now. That is impressive stuff. Going to be sitting back a little bit. Let's take a look and see. He doesn't have that wheelbarrow upgrade. Got his first level 1 food upgrade that's going to be coming in somewhere right now. Probably out over here. There it is. And he's already got that hunting upgrade as well. Viper not beginning the transition over to farms just yet, so appreciating that he doesn't really need to. Horticulture now coming in for him. Still no wheelbarrow at this time. He does have the first tier of mining. He's getting the first tier of wood chopping as well. Does not have that forestry upgrade. Interesting to note. He's got to be careful though. The ACCM definitely going to be losing this this scout, and I'll be curious to see if Viper goes out and picks that one up. Let's see. Does he have his scout nearby? His scout's out here at the moment. So one of the cheeky things that you can do if you're not going to be able to kill the scout, you just kill the sheep. It's only got 12 HP compared to, I think it's about 110 health of the scout. Let's have a look. 110 on the money, Jongo. Very, very nice. But ACCM now pushing in. Viper looking to place a little bit of damage down here, but outnumbered ever so slightly. He does have that defender's reinforcing advantage, and both players now trading away with each other's longbows. And this is where my theory came in a little bit earlier about if you go horseman in this matchup, you could potentially be onto something. But nonetheless, we continue. Players now moving towards the center crossing. I will note that on this map there are 3 crossings that you've got access to. A little bit of sheep up towards the north, rather a little bit of fish towards the north, a little bit of fish down towards the south, and not too much in the middle of the maps. We do sometimes see civilizations that do fish along here. I've actually seen ACCM playing the Mongols fish on this map, so that was a little bit curious when I saw that. I'm like, hold on, is that a dock? I think it was against Fitzbro as well that he was doing it, but nonetheless, it was a very curious time because there's really not a lot of fish in here. I mean, comparatively, there's 4,000. That's still quite a lot, but It's not infinite though. That's the big difference. Viper now going to be picking them off. We see 9 longbows now versus 9. Viper doing a pretty decent job. We can see there's 4 bodies on the ground compared to 2. And great way to compare the numbers in losses right there. We can see Viper's objectively lost 2, ACCM objectively lost 4, and I love that those bodies just stay there on the ground as Viper begins to push back. ACCM now going to be pushing him across the river. Slight score lead beginning to build now, up about 36 points for Viper. Not too bad, or rather 35 points. We'll take a look in ACCM's base and actually spot he is getting through the upgrade, the +1 upgrade. We'll take a look at Viper, see if he's got any upgrades coming through just yet. Nothing yet, but he does have that blacksmith down. So the meta for these players is definitely something that has been determined. They know exactly what each other are up to. ACCM actually doing a pretty decent amount of farming already, so having 5 farms down at this point. So I love to see that he's got these around the mill. Sometimes we do see players, instead of putting them around the mill, they will put them around the town center. Now that's okay for some civilizations. If you're playing the French, that's absolutely fine. But if you're playing the English, you want to keep them under mills all the time. Just because this bonus that scales so amazingly into the late game, you really don't want to ignore that. 25-30% in the Imperial Age. If that's under your town center, you're not getting that. So that's a massive bonus. You cannot be ignoring that. Viper now attacking the sheep of ACCM, and ACCM getting that little attack notification, and that's exactly what we're talking about. It might have been a misclick there. I don't know. It just seemed like a weird spot. Viper very easily could have got that sheep back in. And now Viper down towards the south, going to be aging up, going up with the King's Palace. So for anybody wondering, this is an Age 2 landmark. We can see actually did initially try and place it down, or I was going to say place it down right here. No, that is the trade post site. I do apologize. So going to be going up to the 3rd age with this landmark. This is a town center landmark. So essentially getting himself a 2nd town center. So he is teching and at the same time going to be booming. So a really smart move from him. We'll take a look over at ACCM. He's nowhere even close to aging up at this point. No 2nd town center down either. I'm curious where he's spending all of his resources, because at the moment it really just seems like there's not a lot going on for ACCM. Score now beginning to pull ahead for ACCM, surprisingly. A lot of units out here. He's got 17 compared to Viper's 16 at the moment. 17th coming in. Got to be careful. 1 villager going to be going down. Age up now in for the Viper. 2nd villager going to be going down. Not too bad for ACCM, but Viper doesn't mind because he's up to the 3rd age relatively safely, and he's going to be able to begin training those double villagers, those double batches, and really start to be working on that production. Viper got to be careful here. Moving in now, we take a look at his line of sight. He does see these down towards the south. He's going to get them inside the town center. It's a little bit clunky, but does manage to save the majority of those villagers. We'll do a quick stock take. Viper sitting on 38 villagers at this point. We'll take a look over at ACCM. He's sitting on 40, so they're quite close to each other. Keep in mind, Viper is rapidly going to begin pushing ahead. Now that he's got access to that 2nd town center, we can see he is training double villagers, but now the trading begins to happen. Veteran longbows happening against the longbowmen, and take a look at the stat difference. There's an extra 2 attack on these, an extra 10 HP, and despite Viper having lesser numbers, he's able to outweigh these longbowmen just simply by having those bigger upgrades. So really nice to see from him. He's also going to be getting the +1 defense. He's got enough resources to go for +2. Actually, we're taking a look at ACCM right here, so I might actually switch it over. There's the Viper right there, so going to be getting that +1. Doesn't quite have enough of that +2 just yet, but undoubtedly going to be looking for it. He's going to be able to pick off a couple more villagers here if he is paying attention. It looks like he's managing to, or Viper's going to be able to hold him down for this one, but definitely at this point I feel like Viper's got quite the lead when it comes to longbows. This matchup, for whatever reason, seems to be longbow v longbow. You know, if one of these players made a single stable, then I suspect the tide would turn for that player very quickly. But already we can see how far ahead Viper has managed to pull. How has he pulled so far ahead? 600 score now all of a sudden. Obviously he's up to the next stage. But where did ACCM's resources all go? ACCM going to be aging up now as well to the next age, but so much later than Viper. Now, it's not going to be a massive issue, apart from the fact that he did lose all those units, and that's probably where the majority of the score loss is going to be coming in now, because he is down about 700 points. He lost about the equivalent, I think, 18 or 19 longbows. It was quite significant. So what I would hope to see now out of ACCM is that he's got to just immediately drop down like a double or a triple stable and just straight away go into knights, and you're going to be very easily able to deal with this because your enemy, he's got a longbow advantage, and as long as you are making longbows, he's going to be making longbows, and he's going to always outnumber your longbows. We just take a look exactly how many longbows there are. 21 at the moment compared to ACCM, who's sitting on probably what? He's got a handful. He's got 10 longbows, 11 longbows out at the moment. So really not looking good for him. So I'd love to see that stable getting dropped down. Do we actually see it? Either that or a siege workshop. I think they're called siege workshops. Let's take a look. Yeah, siege workshop. And for some potential mangonels would be really perfect here. Bringing out the little fire camp, you see this one right now. This is actually going to be healing up longbows in this AoE, so you can see that the HP does increase ever so slightly. I think it ticks up for once a second. We can take a look at the tooltip. Doesn't actually say, but I think it's once a second. But Viper now in a pretty decent spot here, I would say, compared to ACCM. We'll take a look and see what he's got going for him. He's up to 54 villages now at this point. Going to be dropping down at lumber camp and looking to now expand up towards the north. This is going to be the third town center for Viper. So he is really looking at getting that economy rolling. Really settling in for the late game at this point. Just a couple villages sitting up here on this stone outcropping. And I like this. You know, just leave 2 villages up here. You're going to be able to drop down plenty of town centers throughout the game if that's what you want. You'll eventually just rack up 800 stone. You're going to be able to use that to drop a castle if you need to. Nonetheless, it is great to see Viper going to be expanding out. Going to be heading onto the wood here. Still plenty of natural resources around the map that he's going to have available to him. One of the things to note on this map, it doesn't look like resources have actually spawned fairly. So we've got 4,000 gold here. We would have had 4,000 gold somewhere in the base. Here we go. 4,000 gold. And then another 4,000 gold over here. So that's a total of 12,000 gold for ACCM. And compare that to Viper's side of the map. Viper's got 4,000 gold, 8,000 gold, and 12,000 gold. But he's also got an 8,000 and an 8,000 right here. That's insane. That's a 16,000 difference. And this is one of the common things that continues to come up in the game at the moment. Is that a demolition ship? That's a demolition ship. Viper's got to be so careful. Oh my lord, that's a demo ship right there. I was wondering what the heck that thing was doing on the shoreline. I thought it was a fishing ship. I'm like, ACCM, it's a little bit late for you to be out on the water fishing at this point, my friend, but a bit of a difficult spot. I feel like a demo's definitely... Oh my god, the demo can go over the crossing as well. That's so smart. Oh, I never knew that. That is going to be great. Viper now heading up towards the north, looking. He actually realizes that there's something up here. He does spot the mill. He sees on the ground the dead deer carcass. Villagers do manage to evacuate at the last second, but Viper in a bit of a difficult spot because he realizes that he might be outnumbered. His enemy's got the defender's advantage. Going to be able to reinforce that one a lot more easily than he's going to be able to, despite having less units. He's going to be able to win the fight. We'll take a look and spot. Do we have any whatsoever, any stables at all going to be coming down for these players? No, we don't. They're really committing to this. Now, keep in mind, the only difference between having the high ground and the low ground in Age of Empires 4 is line of sight. So you take a look at ACCM, has a very limited line of sight. Compare that to the Viper, and you can see all the way down to the mill down here. So one of the things to remain cognizant of is that by getting up to the top here, you're not really achieving anything when it comes to the battle. It's very helpful when you've got siege, but other than that, it's not all that helpful. Viper going to be able to do very well here. We'll take a look into his base, see what other infrastructure we've got coming up at the moment. It doesn't look like any... There it is. There it is. There it is. Viper listening live, it sounds like. And look at that. The triple stable switch. This is the game-changing moment right here. This is when your opponent is going to continue massing up. I don't know how ACCM's doing it. He up until now, he had 1 production building. Technically, it works as 2. And he's managing to spend all of his resources. Does he just have this thing on lock the whole time? Like, that is absolutely wild. It's absolutely ridiculous. But now, ACCM making the wrong move here. And going for veteran longbowmen, and definitely the safe bet in this matchup is to go knights, and I'll explain a bit about why that is. So if you open knights, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is you run to your enemy's base and all of a sudden there's spears there. So what do? You don't fight them, you run away, and then you know what you do? You make longbows so that you can counter your enemy's spears. The best case scenario is that your enemy has nothing and you begin killing villagers, you begin killing their army, you have literal reign over their base. They can no longer get... They try and get a barracks up, but you're killing their villagers while they're doing it. It's a game-winning button that you've got. If you've ever played StarCraft, you'd be familiar with things like the Wraith. I think it's called the Wraith. In StarCraft 1, it's called the Wraith. In StarCraft 2, I can't remember what it's called, but essentially it was like, it was an invisible flying unit, and if you got that and your enemy didn't have detection, it was literally GG. It was over. And the same with the Dark Templar for the Protoss, and it's the exact same thing here with a heavy amount of knights like this. So once Viper builds up to 10, 11 knights and pushes in, and look, ACCM's still sitting right now, having a bit of a difficult time. I'm curious to see his macro. I genuinely don't know how ACCM right now is sitting on this many production facilities with this many villages. He's up to 70 villages, and he's got the equivalent of 4 production facilities. How is he doing this? I sit on like 26 villages and I'm like pumping out of 4 production facilities. What's he doing? Like, where's all of his gold going? Where's all of his stuff going? Is it going into a vacuum or something? Gonna begin pushing out now. 29 longbowmen, looking to just do a little bit of damage onto the archery range. Probably a bit of a misclick, if anything. Viper now going to be moving down. We take a look at the stats between these. Viper does have the +2 armor, and Viper going to be pushing out now with a couple of knights. These knights are going to be able to connect. We take a look at ACCM's perspective. He just spots them now, and this is probably going to be a good game when he realizes that there's not a lot he can do. He can put down, you know, if worse comes to worse, he can put down his pikes or his palings, but really not going to be that effective against these units, just because they're so close, and he actually moves off the palings and cancels them. They can be a little bit tricky to know how to use that, but Viper going to be able to clean that up more than effectively. But this does actually buy time for ACCM behind this. We take a look, probably going to have some barracks going down. Hopefully some barracks going down. ACCM. Come on, man. I'm looking for it. I'm waiting for it. Where's the reaction? There's got to be, you know, for every action, there's a reaction, right? Knights at the north going to be doing a decent job of cleaning up. Viper in a great spot here, could very easily dive in. You take a look, he's got actually 6 armor on those bad boys, and when you consider that the town center does only 10 damage, he's only going to be taking 4 damage from each of these knights, and you know, just absolutely shredding through the enemy army at this point. Still, once again, we actually see that looked like ACCM was thinking about going up to the Imperial Age. A little bit dangerous to push out whilst you're thinking about Imperial Age. We'll take a look back over at Viper. We'll see where he's up to. Viper up to 103 villages at the moment. Compare that to ACCM, who's sitting on 79. And ACCM in a very difficult spot, because you really can't just maintain longbow production only and expect that it's going to go well against that many knights. That's kind of insane. Just how much Viper's been able to capitalize on this. Going to be pushing him in now. Now keep in mind, this town center can only hold 10 villages in it. So it's not like Age of Empires 3 where your town centers can hold 50 villages. This town center can only hold 10. Your capital can hold 20, but that is it. That is it. So your villagers have nowhere to run. The villagers are going to make it back to the town center, but you take a look. Never mind. There's no units there. And now we just see all of the places right now that ACCM is under attack. Viper just putting out absolute plenty of work, really just keeping him on lock. You see all of the points that he's got line of sight over the map right now. Behind this, he's very happy. 3k food saved up at this point. A lot of forward building that he's got going down here. Some extra houses just in case he goes and loses a couple. But in a really, really strong commanding position at this point. You can see the scores. Wow, I just realized the score. Viper up about 2k score at this point. So I don't think that there's any real question as to how this game is going to be unfolding. But we'll take a quick look at Viper's infrastructure. I want to see exactly what it looks like. He's got one town center down here with farms, a second mill with farms, more mills at the back here with farms around the town center, more farms, just so many farms everywhere. And you can see, you know, the consequence of having so many farms, and so many farmers rather, is that you've got 4,000 food. And, you know, there becomes a point where it's like, 4,000 food's a lot of food. You know, what are you going to do with all that food there, Viper? So I definitely think the maximum amount of villages that you really want to go is probably around 40 on farms, at least for the English, just because they generate food so fast. I would struggle to spend more than 40 farms worth of food, but I guess I am a lesser player, and I'd be curious to see how it does unfold. Viper now going to be going up to the Imperial Age. Going to be dropping down that landmark. Let's take a look and spot. ACCM actually managing to get up to the Imperial Age himself. Going to be dropping down that Berkshire Palace. Berkshire Palace going to be taking plenty of... Look how quickly it takes these knights down. Just pitter-patters them completely. Berkshire Palace doing so much damage. Look at that. 14 bow, 14 bow, 14 bow attack. And compare that to the armor. It's only 6 armor of those knights. So going to be getting through about 8 damage there. Compare that to the town center, which does 10. It's only going to be getting 4 damage through, so a significant difference in damage. And Viper really on top, going to be putting down a forward keep, putting down the Wingard Palace as well. So this is a different landmark. The Wingard Palace is going to be training a single batch. So produces the Wingard army from the landmark. Army includes a man-at-arms, a spearman, a longbow, a knight, and a trebuchet. And you can see it's very, very cheap. 100 wood, 100 food, and 200 gold. Really nice landmark. And ACCM calls the good game. Ladies and gentlemen, Viper is your victor. Surely it is no surprise, he is the absolute greatest of all time. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, this casted game, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.